Yas, welcome to the Limitless Equation. I'm so excited to have you here. We were just saying, you're probably one of the only guests that I've not met in real life before.
I know. And it was so good to hug someone of my height.
This is podcast Team Tiny. We're ready to go.
Absolutely. Been looking forward.
We're ready to go. So we're here to talk about limitless pioneering with you today, which is clearly your superpower based off the extensive experience that you've had in kind of transforming and pushing so freaking hard for a very small person, I will say. Tell me, what does pioneering mean to you?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. I think it's something that I think means many things, and it's something I think I'm lucky to. I feel like I naturally embody. It's fear of the unknown. I think it's a willingness to learn, because you're in an unknown territories. You do have to learn on the fly, and also it's about paving a way or a path that perhaps hasn't been done before, and that is bloody scary. And you have to have a degree, in my opinion, of humility when you're doing it.
Yeah. And self-compassion, right?
Self-compassion. You're going to stuff up. You're going to fall. Hopefully you fall forward and you keep on going.
Yeah. There's that element of like, don't do the hard things and expect them to be easy, was just what came to mind.
Everyone would be doing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I obviously understand the context of why your superpower is limitless pioneering, but let's just take a little trip down memory lane to understand those moments where you've really lent into that and it's shaped who you are today.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to go back a little bit here, and again, flying a bit blindly here, but it was probably it would have been around 20 years ago, one of my first roles within the industry I work in. And I had a very sort of a set role that I was doing, and I could see there was inefficiencies in the organisation I was working for. It's quite, there was a lot of layers of hierarchy, and I was certainly an entry-level role there. And for some reason, for shits and giggles over my Christmas break, apart from hanging out with mates and having a good time, I thought, well, I might do a bit of a SWOT analysis on this company, because I could see there were operational inefficiencies. This is where the nerd comes in. And so I thought, well, let's try and make some improvements here. Anyway, fast forward, created a document, lent on a couple of great colleagues whilst I was doing that, who were more experienced than myself. Presented it to quite a senior level leadership team, and there was dead silence. And as a under 25-year-old, it was quite daunting. Thanks, Yaz, but it's a little bit ahead of time. But thanks. And fast forward about 7 months later, so I thought, okay, I'll go about my my 9-to-5 job, and it landed on the desk of the head of the organisation at the time. Thanks to my immediate boss at the time, and within a day, I was in their office and walking through the document. An immediate audit of the organisation took place to try and improve all the efficiencies. It was great. I was pulled out of the role that I was in, appointed into a new role, elevated, which was amazing, and doing a completely new role that I'd never done before. It involved putting in operational processes, hiring a team of about 30 individuals across the organisation, working for one of the most amazing women that I've ever worked for. And that was kind of the start of it. And then it kind of got a little bit addictive in a new way. That's what I wanted to do. I was like, okay, this is absolutely what I want to do. And then it just went from there, from the next role. That role was very different to where I left it some 8 years ago. We did huge digital transformation. We were building things. I had an incredible team of individuals who were 10 to 15 years my senior, and the wisdom, and I think this is it, the wisdom that one carries can only be achieved over time. We had to disrupt ourselves in order to disrupt and make change in that organisation. And then it led me to my first foray into ad tech. I was working in broadcast at the time after 15 years, absolutely loved it, but I wanted to get in the digital space. I had no bloody idea what digital was, but I knew I had a unique skill set. I knew how operational systems, broadcast systems worked. And so from there, that led me into a role again, a completely new role, launching something that was a global first for the organisation that I was appointed in. And the one broadcast gal amongst 20 digital natives. And then from there, and then the journey sort of ended up where I am today. And that where I am today, again, there was a lot of sheer grit and determination, launching something that was, again, completely new to the market. And I was so scared. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. And through learning and persistence, asking the market what was needed, listening. This is a very condensed version, even though it's a long story, is where I am today.
I think you've touched on so many things there. One being you were so brave in that moment when you were 25 to go, do you know what? I see a challenge and I'm not afraid to be the one to risk feeling a little bit embarrassed, risk going through that uncomfortable process and really truly backing yourself. And what I love about that is this whole podcast is built on self-belief. And in that moment, whether that went right or wrong, you were proving to yourself, I can believe in myself, I've got this, I can do this. And you were building, like, self-esteem is built through esteemable acts, and you were doing that and living that. And it's no wonder you then describe that as an addiction, because I see that from everyone who starts to kind of take that step forward in what they want in life. But yours is just spiraling and getting bigger and bigger as the journey goes on.
Yeah. My nickname's Little Big.
Mm.
And I think I've somehow found myself in roles. I've had friends go, oh, what is it? You've just signed up for another challenging thing. This is going to be bloody hard. And you're right. I think when your passion takes you somewhere, and that passion can change over time, you end up in these positions or in these situations that, you feel like you can make a difference. So.
And you're learning to trust the process, right? Because you've been through challenges so many times now that I can see you smiling. You're like, yeah, you kind of go, I know I'm in the hard bit right now, but I know I will come out of this. And whether it takes me in the direction I want or whether it gives me incredible growth personally,
Totally.
That's what it's teaching you. You also mentioned just in that story that you captured initially around that initially you didn't get the answer you wanted, and then you had to, someone luckily put you forward again. But I think for anyone listening, it's not about necessarily sitting back and saying, right, I got to know. Once you've had a difficult conversation, the most important thing you can do is go in again. Don't you agree?
Run at it.
Yeah.
My beautiful fiance says to me, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah.
And I agree with that.
Yeah, the concept of giving yourself 5 seconds and you're out.
Yeah. There is a story. I was trying to get my head around something I was trying to take to market. There was no one really to lean on. And I remember throwing a pillow across my bedroom in tears, going, I just don't get this. I just don't get it. And there's those moments of where you break. And I don't think things come really easy to me. I wasn't a duxer for school. I wasn't a super high achiever at school. I was relatable. There was an openness. There was, forged some great relationships. But when things do sometimes take time to get a grasp of, you end up being a master at as well in the long run. And I remind my team about that too when they're struggling with things. And I think that's really, really critical to keep on remembering, because when it clicks.
Let's go deeper on that. So what else do you remind your team? Like, how does that?
Yeah.
Because when you are being the pioneering version of yourself, bringing other people on that journey, when we have an inbuilt fear of change, that's quite a hard task. So how do you motivate the people around you to be like, okay, we're in, let's go?
I think one thing that's consistent within the team that we have, who's an incredible team, is that they're all passionate. When they sign up, they're doing things that they may have done 10 years ago in their career, but things that they'd never dream of. And I think when you have a shared vision, if there is the higher alignment on something that you're working towards and there's a passion, and you tell, you support them, I know you can do this. There's a children's storybook called The Little Engine That Could. And I refer to it a bit, and it's about this little train that tries to, take these children up the train with their toys, and I say to the guys, like, I think I can, because that's what the train's doing. They're trying to get up the hill. They get to the top of the hill, the train makes it, and then they go down the hill, and it's much easier. I knew I could, or I know I can. So we sometimes say, I think I can, I know I can, I think I can, I know I can. And one of the biggest things, I think, is just seeing and showing the team where they started. I just had this discussion this morning with someone in my team, where, individuals started versus where they are. There's nothing more that I love. And again, it's happened this week, where we're sitting around a boardroom table with really senior leadership and decision makers of potential clients and partners, and they're directing their questions to my team. And I think there's this notion of, I don't know if it's about giving up your power, but it's about imparting knowledge and power, because when you elevate, it's almost like making yourself redundant, because if you can make yourself redundant, you all elevate together. I learned this from, again, another incredible woman that I worked for. And then everyone rises. The rising tide lifts all boats. And then when they can see that progression in themselves, and then it's just the momentum goes. And not being afraid to fall. I often say to them, I'm on the sideline running next to you. My job is to block and tackle, so you can run with a straight with a line without all the with all the we call it hara. Hara is sort of the Arab word for shit. My fiance says it a lot, and so you can just have that clear vision to score a try, to kick a goal, or whatever the analogy you want to use. So
yeah, I heard the one around the flower. Like, a flower it's not about tending to the flower, it's about removing the weeds to make sure it's got the space. And I really love that. Whether you're a flower person or a sports person, I think that it's such an important message, because I think when we can see things visually like that, it makes it a lot clearer for us in terms of, like, what am I actually trying to do here? Take me to the moments, and almost visually take me there. I feel like you might be a visual learner. I'm not sure, you're giving me that vibe. When it's all going wrong and you're in the thick of it, and you're looking for that resilience, you're looking for that vision. Take me to some of those moments and examples.
So I would say having an APAC role, reporting up into a global business, can be, and Georgia just referenced it as well when I was nodding my head when I was listening. It can be quite lonely at times. So you have to build a network of friends, individuals that you can lean on in those hard times as well, perhaps even outside of your own team, because often as you progress in your career, it can get lonelier the higher that you rise. And so I'm really lucky to be able to lean on my friends and lean on some gorgeous individuals in the industry we're so lucky to be working with. And I'm not just sugarcoating it. There's some great folks. There are some folks there that are our partners that, I call personal friends. And it's about sharing the struggles where you can, of course, to find inspiration in that. And just taking a breath, taking a step out, taking a breath, taking stock. Dropping it, leaving it, whether that's going for a walk or that's just taking a moment, or as well expressing that things are really shit at the moment. I don't try and be a person that is always composed. Sometimes in front of my team, I will go, it's really fucking tough. It's really fucking tough. There's been times where I've gotten a little bit emotional in front of the team, not to the level where it makes them feel unsafe or anything like that. I think you have to, as a leader, make sure that there is a clear boundary. But I think they need to know that there is a real human there, and that there's going to be mistakes that are made. And so when times are tough, we have open and honest conversations. We may come up against one another. We may have a difference of opinion, but we always arrive at a better outcome. Sometimes we have to drop things, walk away, shift course, pivot, all of those things that you're doing when you're pioneering or you're doing new things. And one of the biggest challenges in what we do is that it has been historically, because we were first, there wasn't a skill set that was here. So we were all learning together. And that was hard, but gosh, it's amazing, like what I mentioned, when you can look back and look at the folks that are in the business and what they're doing now and how they're imparting that knowledge.
There is something beautiful about the we're all learning together mentality, that whether some people know more than others, it's just a nice way of living anyway. I think going back to your conversation earlier around when I was 25, I had this game changing idea for the business and the way we work. I feel like we can become, especially in larger organizations, so hierarchical in the way things are done. And the amount of times I work with like more junior teams and they're like, oh, well, I think this, but it's always done this way. And people are not willing to challenge and not willing to push through because they don't want to rise above. They don't want this. They're so scared. And I see it all the time. But there is nothing more exciting as a leader than when someone more junior comes over to you and says, I've got an idea. Because, I work with both levels, right? So I hear the leaders going, we need help. It's chaos. The CEO's the loneliest job in the world. Like it's not an easy gig. And I think the whole industry would be made so much better if people were better at feeding up and sharing ideas and sharing information. But we do seem to have that kind of generational gap at the moment. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, I'm seeing it. I think because our team is somewhat smaller as well, you can't hide behind the numbers as well, if that makes sense. There's this saying, if there is an issue, it's going to stick out like dog's balls. It's just going to. It's sorry, my dad's humor comes in, but it is though. But there is some, and you have to encourage and you have to promote the team to be able to chat to you. Yes, there has been absolutely resistance at times where folks may not want to speak up, or are scared to, or I'm sitting there questioning myself. What in the past, why hasn't someone, I don't know. Why haven't they actioned something, or why haven't they sent out a note? And often it's probably the individual grappling with, oh, is this the right thing to do? Because again, we are doing things that are often quite completely new with the partners that we work with as well. And so you're taking them on that journey, and there's a high level of trust. I think that's the one thing that we say with the team. If folks trust you, you're halfway there because it's new. And we often say to our partners, you're going to be in the trenches with us because, again, this is something that is new for what your business is doing, what we are providing you. And who do you want to be in the trenches with? Do you want to be in the trenches with us because we're going to be in the trenches? Or are we going to, and then we'll, get out of that particular state and hopefully continue on.
What an invitation.
So, yeah, I know. I think it's sometimes I kind of probably a little bit too honest, but I think that way you really know your
That's
level
how you build
set.
the trust, right?
Exactly right. Yeah.
How do you deal with a no? Because you must have had this lifestyle, you must have dealt with a lot of rejection and a lot of no's. How does that feel? How do you overcome that? How do you keep going?
I think the no's often come through a misalignment of what is unknown. So if it's a no, it's a no. Take a step back. The no's are increasingly becoming yeses. There's always going to be no's, and there's always going to be naysayers. When you're innovating, when you're disrupting, I think there's that famous saying, when you're in the arena and everyone's looking around, there's going to be naysayers, and that's okay. And I've evolved from trying not to worry about what people think. So from the no's, often what comes is insight. When you can show an insight, it could be a year, 2, 3 years later. It's happening. It's happened recently. There's been several no's. 5 years later, it was a yes.
Well, I actually wrote down, I don't believe you at one point. So you said, when it's a no, it's a no. And I thought, she doesn't take no for an answer.
No, I'll go, fuck. And then I'll go, right. I might, but I'm always quietly in the background thinking, okay, I'll come back.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it time though. Everyone is busy when you're the 10th vendor going in somewhere chatting to the people. You're like, okay, shit, let's just pause. We'll come back. If you can, drop a little insight, go from there.
Such an important message, I think. Everyone is so busy. The amount of conversations I have with people where they've put themselves forward. It's like this massive thing that they've kind of done. And then it's not the other person's priority on the other side.
Totally.
but they see that as such rejection. And actually understanding that you're not, and I had to go through this myself when I was setting up my own business. You know, I was doing a lot of like learning and development, which I think is like crucial for businesses. That is very low priority for a lot of them. So I'd pitch this idea and they'd be like, we love it, we can't wait to get you in. I'd walk away all chuffed with myself, like, I'm totally getting that gig. And then it would take like 18 months and I would be like, I'm so confused, like, what did I do wrong? And you make it personal and you make it about you. And I think the journey that you've been on is kind of going, it's a no for now. Let's pause. I'll come back.
Yeah.
And I'll, to your point, what's the insight in this? What are we taking out of this? What can we give them from this as well?
Yeah.
From this experience.
Yep, absolutely.
I want to get to know you a little bit because you're a bit cheeky, aren't you? I'm getting I'm getting that naughty vibe. So I think we should go there a little bit.
Yeah.
Tell me about you as a person. Like you know, you and I haven't really met properly.
Sure.
So let's go a bit deeper on you.
Okay. Cheeky is correct. I think I take that from my father. He always had he suffered from foot and mouth disease a lot. Just I think open and honest, having fun, just very passionate. Friends are really important to me, family. And yeah, I questioned what was I like. I think we had a very quick chat around my journey as Yas, and then being really, really scared because I was grappling with the terms of my own sexuality. So coming out as a a person in middle management maybe 15 years ago, which things had progressed so far from where we'd come, but I really struggled with that. I always knew. Sorry, I've gone right down the gate
We're
path.
in.
Okay, we're in. Okay, great. And it took me. I call it the dinner parties of coming outs. I don't know if you've got any friends that are Virgos. I don't know if you are, but I am. And they are anally retentive and they love a schedule and they love a project management sheet. And if my team listen to this, they'll be like, oh, God, yes, she's a nightmare. And I saw a therapist. I was very lucky. At the time, I was working at Channel 10, the most incredible organisation to be just so supportive. And I had leveraged the AP program through there. I'd had 2 sessions. It literally took me 2 sessions. I was out. So I scheduled a series of dinner parties with my friends from high school. I mean, we're talking friends from high school. And I must have done a pretty good job because about 50% of them thought I was dying from some illness that I was going to tell them. And 50% thought, oh, I think she's coming out. And throughout that process was really liberating. I made sure that I kept calm because I didn't want to feel, again, this was something that I was grappling with for 31 years. Maybe not 31, but, a long time. And from that journey, it just felt like the shackles were off and I did feel my whole life did improve. I was very lucky to have very supporting parents. The issues that I had or the limits that I put on myself around this and what I wrapped around myself were of my own doing. You hear of stories, my friends, that, have really had challenges with it. I haven't. I made it my own challenge and I don't know why. And I have asked my current therapist, why is that the case? I don't know if it's because I was, I am a slight perfectionist. Or let's call it a recovering one. So it may have been that. And so I did, and I think when the sort of the veil was lifted and I could see more clearly, and I had made friends with all this whole sort of new circle of friends in addition to my existing friends, it was great. So
I've got so many questions.
Sorry,
now.
yeah,
We've
I've
actually
just
got a list
really-
of, no,
yeah.
we've gone deep, and I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go even deeper. I don't even know if I'm like allowed to
No.
ask this question. I am
It's
going to make
okay.
a note on the EAP thing though, just as a little asterisk here. EAP, if your company has this, use it because I could not be a bigger advocate of like how important therapy is. I now pay my therapist, who I got from my EAP that used to be free at work, $250 an hour every time I see her. And people don't want to go to their EAP because they're like, oh, it's work's way of spying on me. Just to be clear to anyone listening to this, that is illegal. They cannot do that. They do not get that information. They just get like one times user and the bill. So I just wanted to call that out because I've never been able to speak about an EAP on here, and you've given me the
Great.
opportunity. So thank you for that. Very personal question coming next. That therapy session, those 2 sessions, can we talk about any of that?
Whatever. I mean,
what did you learn in that?
I learned that I was right on the edge of doing it, but I was given tools. She could tell that she's like, you need some structure. And she actually suggested, how about you pull out a Excel spreadsheet? This is like wild. People are going to go, God. But this was my journey. It's very different to others. There was an individual that I had worked in a professional sense where I think was the catalyst of me coming out as well, because I couldn't identify with, I wasn't sort of out there in sort of, I suppose, situations where I was meeting people similar to myself. And this individual I got a chance to work closely with them. And I thought, wow, this person is, I now see someone that I can relate to. And you hear this from all different, whether it's different cultures, different backgrounds, whatever. And that was the catalyst, and I spoke to my therapist about that. So it was first a lot of crying, standing in front of the mirror for me to say, again, I'm just Yaz. I'm just Yazzie, and that's the way that my friends and my colleagues, I'm Yazzie. But to stand in front of the mirror, the hardest thing that I was doing at the time was going, I'm a lesbian, or I'm gay. And I couldn't even say those words for so many years. So I was standing there, and there is, I think it's Gabor Mate, or there's this literature around, the body keeps the score. And it was coming out sort of viscerally for me before that. It was the panic attacks, the anxiety, probably situational depression. Look, I'm not an expert, but these were the feelings that I was feeling. And the fear. And in a way, it was kind of like, for me, pioneering into this space too. But it was the way I did it was really kind of interesting. And there's a funny story that follows that too, because it was like, that was the first. The first was just admitting it. And then by the next time, I was ready. Like, I was ready. I was ready to go to. And again, it was a really interesting journey, because it wasn't like I was secretly out. I mean, I just knew, but I wasn't out. I didn't even know if that's the right way. And I'm sorry if there is I'm not an expert as well, so I don't even know if that's the right way to frame it. But anyway, yeah. And then it was just really quick. Really quick. The dinner parties were scheduled.
Do you know what?
That was it.
Your therapist, though, did such a fantastic job, and you had such a strong level of self-awareness of going, this is who I am. This is how I deal with situations, and I'm going to apply this approach to this problem. And I don't think people do that enough. Like, I do it with my clients all the time, of going, I've got a friend who is the most she sounds very similar to you. Do you know Lizzie Grant?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Lizzie, Elizabeth. Yeah.
Strange. Yeah.
So she's a very good friend of mine. She's so incredibly organised. That woman puts an Excel spreadsheet together like you'd never believe. But the amount of times I have conversations with her where we're talking about personal things, and I say to her, you need to go full Lizzie on this. Like, you need a plan. You need how are we going to get from A to B, and we're going to need a timeline, and this is how we're going to get through this. And that is exactly, I believe, how your therapist got you to get there so quickly. Obviously, to your point, the body was keeping score. Like, you were ready. But that element of just self-awareness in the process of going, what does Yazzie need to go full Yazzie on this to get it done?
Totally. And then there's an alter ego called Yazimoto, and that's even more. That's when it goes full Yazimoto, a bit like Lizzie. What a beautiful human she is. And then from there, I remember one of my best mates dropped me off. I said, I don't know any gay girls, because I work in recruitment. I know tons. So dropped me off at the station. Here I am, classic Insular Peninsula, Northern Beaches girl, gets dropped off, goes over to Newtown, of course, and everyone's going to be laughing who know what I'm talking about. And it was just, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was met by these other 2 lovely women who took me to a 30th sit-down birthday party dinner. and there was about 40 people there, and I'm going, shit. I'm nervous, but wow, look at these people that I already feel like I can relate to, and they're beautiful individuals. And fast forward 15 years, they are some of the best friends that I have. And I think there was a question around, it is hard to find new friends. I think it's hard to find friends in Sydney in general too. Although I was born here, I was venturing into a new friendship territory as well. And from there, they're like, you know what, we're going to do the Mardi Gras. I thought, great, 3 months into it, why not? So here I am auditioning for, and I love the Yazzie that, people know as well. I love cooking. I love dancing. I wanted to be a backup dancer for Janet Jackson, all of those things. And I auditioned, got into the Kylie Minogue float. It was a Kylie 25 celebration. They said, are you willing to wear hot pants? I said, okay, why not? We'll have a spray tan. It'll look all right. We did it, and my friends showed up. It was obviously broadcast on television. And although I hadn't come out to a lot of my work colleagues. This is sort of 3-4 months in. And then when I rocked up the next week, they're like, hey, Yaz, and just a few nods, and obviously word had gotten around, but it was just hilarious that was kind of also the later part of the progression of that process, being in that space.
What did you learn from that experience? Because I see such joy on your face. I almost feel like you're laughing at yourself through the process. Like there's an element of kind of the way you're looking back at it feels very nostalgic and very... Yeah. What did you learn?
It just wasn't that bad. It was anything but for me, this was I appreciate that is not for everyone. And I laugh because of the auditions. I laugh at the outrageousness of it all and just getting right in there. I laugh that my school friends showed up. One of them had a broken ankle. She's sitting there. It's raining. She's in a wheelchair. My dad with a camcorder. I mean, that was a sign of the day. Was so excited it went flat before I walked down the march. And I think I'm smiling because I'm fast forwarding to what had just happened 15 years later. There I am at the Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras parade, standing on the sidelines, and my beautiful dad has just sort of recently passed in the last year and a half. He would be there. And there is my mother in the parade, walking with the Turkish gay and lesbian float. Was participating. I started getting text messages. Your mum's coming. Oh my God. Oh, there she is. Oh my God. She's on television a lot. She's actually holding the actual sign. And here she comes walking down, a 75-year-old woman walking down. And I think that's why I'm smiling too, because I'm fast forwarding going, and here I am on the other side of the barricade watching my mum as she is representing perhaps the parents that aren't in this country, or perhaps the parents that may not necessarily be supportive of individuals that don't have the right or feel safe to do that in their own country. And that was a really big
You're
thing.
You're making me a bit emotional.
Yeah, it was really emotional. I was really proud. I actually called her on the way in. I go, Mum, I don't think I've told you this. But I'm just about to do a podcast. Do you mind if I share a few things? Because her name's Nunu. Everyone knows Nunu, because she has quite a few hilarious stories and is quite inspiring, and that's one of them.
Yeah, I love that. You spoke about your friend with a broken ankle, and there is just something. I spoke to someone earlier, and she was like, "Oh, my sister's having a bit of a hard time. She's going through a breakup. I don't know whether to drive down there this afternoon." And I'm very much like, look after yourself, rest. And I just said, you have to go. You have to go, because in those moments where people are having that raw, open vulnerability, like you were in that, you were laughing through it, but you were open. Some scars were open.
Yep.
Who shows up for you in those moments means everything, and it also sets you up for success and strength for such a long period of time. Them just showing up at that one point that's important. I'm going to pause there and see what you say.
It has. I mean, it's the old saying of, you're my rock, you're my foundation. So I think I'm so lucky to have that foundational group of supporters to be able to unleash when I want to unleash. I think that's really important to get that out there too. Like if you need to let go. So when people show up for you, it's also a mirror. It's almost holding up a mirror in front of yourself going, this is what I mean to people. And also, yeah, I show up for it's a reciprocal, beautiful
Mm.
um, I think energy where
Mm.
you it's a reflection of that the type of person that perhaps you are as well, you know.
Mm.
I don't know if I'm answering the question, but they,
No,
you know,
I just want to know your
yeah,
thoughts. I
I
think.
think that did not I think I know that set me up. And then just in terms of my whole life, the trajectory sort of went from there. Geez, I
Mm.
got myself in some precarious situations, but that's a whole nother podcast. But yeah, so yeah, and I'm really lucky for that.
Mm. Mm. I I think that I went away this weekend. I don't know why I'm sharing this. I feel like you'll vibe it. I went away this weekend. I've started going to all these like really spiritual retreats, and this one was like a winter getaway. And we were doing a lot of embodiment work where you kind of like close your eyes and you pretend that you're somewhere else, and you tap into yourself and what's inside. And we were doing a lot of inner child work. So like that little inner child that's in all of us. I'm sure you would have done this in therapy, and then the wise woman. So like the older version of us who knows better and knows more. And they told us to drop into our safe space. And I dropped into my safe space, Manly Dam. That's where I go when I need like complete tranquility. If you don't have a safe space, anyone listening, I recommend you get a place that's just yours, that you go, that's special to you. And I started dancing on this bridge with my eyes closed, with my little inner child and my wise woman. And then I started inviting in my head, obviously I sound nuts talking about this, but my sister and her inner child and her wise woman, and my friends and their inner child and their wise woman, and my mum and my grandparents, until I had like all of these women kind of out on this amazing bridge with me. And I just thought, we're all carrying both of those people alongside us as well. Like there's a little Yaz in the room right now, and there's wise woman Yaz as well in the room. And to build on our point, it's also those people that are with us. And I think we need to see ourselves like that, and see other people like that as well. And I feel like you've got that community and that tribe around you.
I do have a tribe, and I've got new, more recent tribes too. Tribes that are from the industry. They know who they are in a beautiful, beautiful way. Um, Absolutely. I was just thinking, I know where my space is. It's like at the top of Manly Lookout. So it's not far from you, actually. You're at the dam. I'm kind of on the coast there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nice. And you need that, right? You
Mm-hmm.
need somewhere I never knew that before, that you
Mm.
need somewhere to go that's just yours. Like if I get asked out on a date or anything and someone asks to take me, like, do you want to go for a walk? And they'll say Manly Dam. I'm like, absolutely not. No man is coming into Manly Dam with me. That's
Even though
my
the word is in the title.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like, that's
Yeah.
not happening. Yes, thank you for being so honest about your personal journey there, because I think the thing that's been beautiful about this podcast is I've had people come on talking about egg freezing and divorce, and like we've covered some growth, and I really think that moment is so defining for you in your pioneering journey. So thank you for sharing that. Has there been any other moment for you where you're like, that was the game changing moment?
I think it was probably around 2017, and it led into the position that I am in now. I had made the choice my own to leave the organisation that I was in. Um, the product was potentially it was deprecated, and I thought I'm going to consult. And God, I was so scared. I remember finishing my job. My partner lived between here and LA. She had previously left her corporate job pursuing acting, like very brave, very brave. So I was in good company. And I remember fronting up, and I believe in this sort of saying, elbows out. Nadia Hussain, I just watched the most incredible interview that she did, and I love her, winner of Great British Bake Off. And I knew about Samba TV, and I knew that I wanted to bring it here. It was almost like it was almost like an obsession, like a passion project. I'm like, it's got to come here. It's got to come here. And my previous boss was working there. Anyway, the changing moment for me was the shift going into consulting.
Mm-hmm.
I started consulting into them for half a day a week, along with other organisations that I could help, which I felt like I could help doing what they were doing. And some 3 years later, and I fronted up to, flew over, we drove to San Francisco in her shitty beat up Toyota Corolla, like thinking like LA vibes, the paint's peeling off because of the sun. And I walked through the headquarters of that organisation. And there is the CEO and founder kind of standing there. I showed up to meet with another colleague and sort of did the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, went and shook the hands, and then made it very sort of apparent, I want to bring this here. And I'm forever grateful for the trust that they instilled in someone that perhaps didn't have the typical skill set that would have taken that in market or taken that to market. And that was really the defining moment for me, starting my own consultancy business, working with organisations to help them with digital transformation, whilst fumbling my way through new lesbian life and getting myself caught into all different horrendous situations because I was naive and learning. And at the same time, meeting the love of my life and launching a solution that I knew could help the industry, and just sticking with that vision, coming back to the no's or the naysayers or whoever, and so that was the shifting moment for me around that time.
You're very clear on what you want, and you're not afraid to go and get it. You're smiling at me so hard. You're like, I just love that. I love that, and I think it's very rare. I think a lot of us, to your point at the beginning, we live in that fear factor. What about when you're exhausted?
Yeah,
because it does sound exhausting.
It is. I think you can go for years where you're exhausted, right? I'm going to be completely honest. Like, yeah, I'm fucking tired. But when you're exhausted, you do have to take a breath, and it's often those around you too that sort of say stop, just stop, because it's actually me running at a pace, right? It's me and the way and the expectation that I run. This is totally got to do with me. So when I'm exhausted, you take a breath. I do the things, whether it's cooking, I love cooking, whether it's doing something that just helps me get out of my head. And yeah, there is, I don't know if it's appropriate bringing it up, but I'm about to go in for some major surgery in a couple of days. It's going to certainly be a reset for me. It's certainly, because it is a non-negotiable disconnect that I haven't had in well over a decade, because I ran my own business. This is kind of like my own, we look for entrepreneurial people with what we do. And I'm very lucky I have a great team. So there's no issues there. But so yeah, I shouldn't say that's forced rest. That's not what you want to get to, but definitely having a reset, definitely taking space away. I find I like a lot of short, frequent resets, breaks. And I think this whole thing of, how do I put it? This whole thing of work-life balance, you're not going to have balance every day. It might be 90-10%. It might be 50-50. It might be 40-30. That's like relationships too. My partner and I check in sometime. I might be doing 70% one day, then I'm doing 5%. And then I get it kept in check pretty quickly when that happens, as should. So, yeah, when I'm exhausted, put my feet up. Try not to have too many wines, to be honest. Try and go for a walk. Go for a walk. I did it this morning. Loved it. Just the things that make me happy. Nothing too sort of philosophical, to be honest. And that's what works for me. May not work for others.
The element of people telling you to stop and us not listening is something I see every day. and didn't think I was guilty of it until I went to this retreat this weekend. And I realized that friends were telling me things and giving me advice. And I feel like there's such a defense of like, yeah, no, or like I'll explain it back to them. And I haven't necessarily connected with it and felt it and understood what they mean. I think we're so, like, to your point, look after yourself. If your friends are telling you to look after yourself, you're doing something wrong, and you actually need to pause and stop and go, okay, let me listen to them. If I was willing to take that information on board, what would I do differently? But we're so dismissive in terms of the I'm fine, I've got to keep going, to the point where I'm a little bit sad that you've said, and thank you so much for sharing, but they're like, this forced rest is now coming, when wouldn't it be lovely if it was
not forced?
Yeah. And I'm so I say that so compassionately and delicately, because I have no idea what you're going through, and thank you for sharing. But I just grapple with this every day, that we do tell each other, but we don't listen.
Yeah. And this is, again, very much to do with me personally, and I think things that I put in, it's calendar blocking. It's time for thinking, or it's time for walks, or it's not time for exercise. And that's, again, it's irrespective of where I go. This is I know that this is a pattern that I do where I am running at a pace. Irrespective. This has got nothing to do but with me, and I run at a pace. And yeah, it is. It's and thankfully it's not I'm getting we'll call it robo Yaz. So I'm getting a new, a fair few screws put in my back because I've got to get it corrected. And so in a few days' time, here I am, here sitting in front of you. I'm going to have probably people on either side of me help me get up and walk. And it's not a woe is me. It's this is going to be really, this is really going to make me, in check. And sometimes the universe does tap you a bit and go, okay, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to tap you. And so there is a combination of things: calendar blocking, making time for yourself. And that is setting a good example for everyone around you, right? It's not good, because you don't want to be that leader or that person that thinks that is an expectation. And it often just comes from sheer passion, because I just love passion for what I'm doing. But you also have to take some time out.
Well, there's as women, we're told that we add value when we're of service, right? So we're constantly trying to give, constantly like trying to people please, that constant perfectionism theme that comes through with everyone I speak to. And I think that it's so subconscious that we don't even realize we're doing it at all times, because we're kind of happy doing it, because we're told, if we're in service, we're doing the right thing. Or if I'm doing the right thing, I'm ticking a box, so I'm happy. And not actually getting back to the core and going, who am I? What do I want? What do I need, as you're saying, in terms of like, what are the things that are going to make me really happy? And I want to congratulate you on the way that you've just spoken about your surgery that you're having, with a level of compassion for yourself and understanding that it's going to be difficult, with a honest approach to it. Like, you don't have to be sharing that, but also a moment of going, I'm going to look after myself. Like, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to, I've got a great team around me. I'm going to trust the people around me, and I'm going to trust the process. And I think that last little snippet says everything about you and the way you approach life. And that's why pioneering is without a doubt your superpower, and how you've managed to sustainably do all the amazing things that you've done with your life.
Thank you. Quite overwhelmed by that feedback, but it's it's exciting, and I am very nervous over the next few days. But so it's good.
You've done so well.
Thank
you for being here.
Thank you.
you've got much bigger things to be doing. At the end of every episode, we ask everyone to shout out their limitless woman. You've referenced a few already, but who are you going to go with as your final end point?
There's a few. There is my grandmother. There is my partner. I'm going to go with my mother, because she is quite Nunu. She's quite hilarious. I shouldn't say hilarious. She is. But from where her journey was, she came out here when she was 13, couldn't speak a word of English, was at the back of the classroom. They gave her children's storybooks to read. the kids would teach her swear words first. Of course, that happens, right? Fast forward, she runs a very successful piano school. At the age of 70, when COVID hit, she had to digitally transform her business. She had to go online, learning all that technology whilst caring for my father, who had progressive dementia at the time. And then fast forward to now, I think since his passing, she has a zest for life. She's constantly reinvented herself. That's what I think makes her limitless. She is constantly evolving. She has no desire to stop, which is fantastic. And she's out there meeting new people. So much to the fact that she was, almost a victim of an e-romance scam that she didn't realise what was happening. That was a whole nother story. But that actually triggered her into an area where she thought, actually, I do want a companion, even though your father was my absolute love of my life, the only man I've ever been with. And she is now on this journey of meeting some incredible people and rocking around in her soft-top Mustang, meeting some great folks and having a laugh at it. And she's not just in this box and making new friends. And I think some old friends are kind of like, ooh, this is a new Nunu. Like this is not the Nunu that we knew. And she's surrounding herself with people that are really supportive of her, of this new journey she's on. She is constantly evolving, and I do look up to her. We talked about the Mardi Gras parade as well, but she is outrageous. I can see her doing some sort of podcast. Like everyone just gravitates to her, and she is a force to be reckoned with. And I take a lot of my strength from her and a lot of my, compassion and everything. So, yeah. It's the Nunu.
Well, now we know where you get it from. It was literally like you were describing yourself there, but
really?
there we go. Thank you so much for taking the time. Good luck with your surgery.
Thank you.
We'll be thinking of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.